Alright guys, real quick in this video, I want to go over the real reason players that are not as good as you are starting over you, why you're on the bench, why you think maybe some players who are not as good as you are either starting over you or getting more game time, period. We're going to go over a few reasons because I feel like this is a question I get a lot, or it's implied a lot in my videos or in the comments. So first one is just to recognize if the player has other qualities that the coach likes. Sometimes you may be technically more gifted than a player, you may be able to do much, but a coach is looking for specific things for specific positions and will play a player with certain qualities in a certain position. I remember I had a coach when I was much younger where there was a player playing over me or getting a bit more game time than me who I was a much better footballer than, but I wasn't working as hard defensively, and so he got more time because our coach had a more defense-minded approach, at least this coach, to the game. And so because I wasn't tracking back as much, at least at that age, I luckily corrected this, and we'll go over this in a second, but because of that, it didn't matter how good my goal-scoring prowess was or how much of a threat on the attack I was, the coach was more concerned with me blocking up that space on the counter, making sure I didn't get caught out, things of that nature, so this other player would get more game time over me because he did do those things. Now, he wasn't as much as of a goal threat, he wasn't as technically gifted or as much of a complete footballer, but he did that much better than me at the time and therefore got more game time over me. So it's not always about who is the best player, it's who is going to fulfill the role better that the coach asks of the team. So one thing is, you also don't want to just argue with your coach. That's going to get you nowhere. You need to do things that are within your control. So one thing you can do is go up to your coach and ask, hey, I realize I'm not getting as much game time. I'm more than willing to fight for my place, but could you tell me some things that I can improve in order to get more into your first team plans or get some more game time? And most good coaches, pretty much any coach I've ever encountered that's been a good coach, will actually give you the real answer to why you're not getting as much time. Now, you get some coaches who just won't want to bother, and I don't consider them really good coaches. Coaches want players who are coachable. Coaches want players, good coaches usually want players who want to improve themselves. And so they also want their team to improve, and by you improving certain areas they think you're lacking in is only going to improve their team. So most coaches will be straightforward with you and tell you, look, I need you to contribute more defensively, or look, maybe your touch isn't as good, I need you to improve this area, or look, whenever you get a goal scoring chance, you're just not taking it, and whoever the other player is. So you can be very direct with your coach and just ask and be very respectful. And again, you're going in without expectations. You see, I feel like a lot of players are just kind of whining and moaning and just kind of like, oh, I'm not blah, 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 it's unfair, blah, blah, blah. Why me? It's unfair. Guess what? That attitude's never going to get you anywhere. However, going to ask your coach without any expectation, just going, hey, I just want to know, and do it very respectfully, what can I improve to get more game time? Now, like I said, there are coaches that aren't so great, and I've only had one coach where they didn't respond well to this or they just didn't answer me. But almost every other coach who I ever asked, what can I improve, has always come back with some answer, especially if they're a coach who knows me, who's coached me for a little bit, or has watched me play, in practice for a bit. In fact, I would have coaches that would come up to me, as a coach should, telling me, without me prompting or asking them, what I can improve on, but it's always good to ask the coach as well, especially if you're not getting game time. So that's the first solution I have for you guys is, look, find out why. If you're not getting game time and there's a player ahead of you, you think you're better than, and they are getting game time, find out why. It's probably not because the coach is being unfair. Again, there are bad coaches out there. There are coaches who are egoic, who play favorites at the detriment of the team. If you're younger, you may even notice that a coach is playing their son, who may not be that good, over some players. That happens as well. That's just the nature of it. But at least try and make this communication, or have this communication with your coach, to find out what you can do in order to get more time. Because again, it might be just because another player has certain qualities that you're not quite as good at, but then you can work on those things, okay? And finally, be honest with yourself, because I've known a lot of players, and it's very easy to It's hard to read the label from inside the bottle. And what that means is it's very hard to see things from another perspective when you're so entrenched in your own. And sometimes I've known players who I've been on teams with, or who I've been friends with, or former teammates of, who are on teams saying like, man, I don't know why I'm not starting or getting more game time. And then I'll look at the team or I'll look at the other players and I know exactly why. And the coach knows exactly why. And the other players know exactly why. They're not quite as good as the other players, yet for some reason they have this inflated idea that they are. But they're not willing to put in the work to get better. So be brutally honest with yourself. It doesn't help you to lie to yourself and pretend that you should be in the starting 11 when clearly someone's being more productive than you or doing a better job than you. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be fighting to get in that starting 11, but if you're going to fall back on just whining or playing the victim or saying things are unfair, well, guess what? You're never going to get back in the team. You're never going to get back in that starting position, because the players that do, they knuckle down. Again, they ask for feedback and then they go and improve those areas. But I've known plenty of players, even in the college level, who would go, are these players better than me? Why am I not starting? And it's like, to me, it's obvious. Yeah, they currently are. Yeah, when they're on the pitch, they do more than you. Yeah, there's this flaw in your game that for some reason you're ignoring, in order to keep this idea that you're better than the players starting. But if you just got off the high horse and went, okay, why am I not playing? Oh, it's because of this weakness that maybe I'm losing the ball always in midfield, or maybe I'm making the wrong pass all the time and these players are more tidy in possession. I don't know what it is. But if you can be more honest with yourself, brutally honest with yourself, that's when you can become aware of the things you need to work on in order to get into that starting 11. So it's not always that the player isn't as good as you. Sometimes they're as good as you. Sometimes they might even be better than you. But if that's the case, you need to know so that then you know what to work on moving forward. So the first two are in situations when maybe you're a more technically gifted or better footballer than the player and they're just fulfilling a role. They have a better mentality. Maybe they're more defensively sound, whatever it is. You need to find out what that is so you can, work on that area. Talk to your coach, get the feedback. And 3, don't be delusional. Don't kid yourself, saying that you're better than players who you were clearly not better than. And there's nothing wrong with not being better than some players. There's always going to be a player better than you. But the point of that is then you can identify what it is that makes these players a little bit better than you and then bridge the gap. But without that awareness, without being able to identify that and be honest with yourself, you're never going to bridge that gap, because you're just going to keep falling back on this idea that I don't know how I'm not on the team, or this idea of I'm just better than them, but I'm not getting in. I guess life's unfair. I guess the coach is just unfair. He hates me, blah, blah, blah. That's not going to help you. And even if you do get an unfair coach, which can happen, I'm not saying yours is, because a lot of people will be like, I'm the one with the unfair coach. No, that's not what I'm saying. Most coaches are very fair. Most coaches want to win, and so will play the best players or the team they think will help them win. But just understand, this is about taking responsibility. This is about finding out what it is you need to work on, creating a plan around that, and then working on getting into that starting 11. Okay? This is really the main reason why I think some players don't start who think they do. Again, there might be some legitimate unfair reasons, but usually there's a reason for it. Find out the reason and then go work on it. All right, guys, that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next one.